What's up, guys? It's your boy Timbo. I got another reaction today. This is a video from Mr. Nightmare. I think I've done one reaction to his video so far, but this is the latest one. It's called Three Scary True Mansion Horror Stories. And like mansions being big, so many corners, hiding spots for whatever creepy. I don't know, something could get you. All right, let's check out these stories, guys. 3, 2, 1.
There's this abandoned mansion in Toronto that came up in a group chat among my friends. We saw pictures of it through a mutual friend who had recently gone to explore there. It
Nice
looked
house.
immaculate based on the pictures, and we were intrigued to go check it out. It was 10 miles north from us, so the drive wasn't bad. The mansion sat on a big open grass plain, with pine trees and other foliage surrounding the perimeter of the property, acting as a natural fence or just a wall of privacy from the outside. My friends, who I'll call Chad and Brad for this story, followed close behind me as I led the way up the large gravel
Chad and
driveway towards the
Brad.
front of the unfinished house. By the looks of it, construction on the structure had been abandoned when it was near completion, as the outside foundation seemed to be finished. Our mutual friend who found out about the place had told us that he hopped through a back window that was left unlocked, so that's what we looked for. The unlocked window turned out to be in the kitchen, right over the counter, so one at a time we squeezed through the window, crawling onto the counter and then down to the ground. First impressions in the kitchen, almost immaculate, minus a few of the cabinet doors sprawled out on the floor as if they had yet to be installed, and just things like sheetrock boards laying around. But everything seemed new, and it was a shame the construction was abandoned. The three of us kind of went our own directions.
I'll live there.
I went towards the living room, which again was almost pristine. It was a huge room that transitioned into the dining room, and then from there, a wide hallway with at least 10 different doors. My friends were already checking out some of the rooms in this hallway. I peeped into each room and realized most of them were bedrooms. At the end of the hall was a 3-door garage. The last door in the hall before the garage was the basement. I called to Brad and Chad that I was checking out the basement. I got an acknowledgement from at least one of them. The basement had this bizarre spiral staircase, so when I got to the bottom,
I don't know,
couldn't even
screw
see the door at
basements,
the top.
dude.
There were no windows down there, so besides my flashlight, it was pitch black. It was a completely unfinished basement. Pieces of drywall everywhere, unfinished wood foundation where walls should be, but the basement was huge. Like, there were multiple sections down there. It was big enough to fit a basketball court and more. Then I came across this back room with a few storage containers. I was here to explore after all, so I curiously started lifting the lids off the containers. The first two seemed to contain building tools and supplies like wood planks. But then I heard something from one of the other containers. It was like something caused the container to make a bump sound.
Oh, hell no.
Could it be an animal? Or was I just hearing things?
Better be an
I
animal.
went to the container
What
and
a
noticed the
person would
lid
just
was
be in
not
it.
sealed on this one, as it wasn't sitting perfectly
Unless they're
sealed on the
hiding.
top. As I bent over to try and lift the lid, it lifted without me touching it, and I heard a whispering noise.
Oh,
I fell
hell
backwards on my
no.
hands as this happened, and while I was on the ground, I saw a smiling woman looking at me. The only thing lifting the container up was her head. She looked at me
Oh,
and laughed
hell
and said
no.
peekaboo, and she laughed some more.
Get
I ran
that
to the
stick.
top of the
Boom.
stairs,
Close
but the
that
basement
shit
door was
shut.
now locked.
Get out of
I
there.
banged on it for my friends to open it up, but they were apparently messing with me. I heard creaks on the spiral staircase below me. I couldn't see her yet, but I could hear her laughing getting closer, and she was mumbling incomprehensible things. I screamed at the top of my lungs to please help me, and Chad finally opened the door. I ran out and looked back for half a second, greeted by this ghostly, skinny figure of this pale woman looking up at me.
Hell
almost at
no.
the top step. I slammed the door shut and locked it.
I would be
Chad
so
saw the
scared
woman
I'd
too.
break through that
We
door.
bolted for the front door. We didn't care about leaving
That
it open.
adrenaline and that strength
The
would
three
just
of us
be
got
like,
to the edge of the
hell
property
no.
and talked.
Boom. Right
After an
through.
hour of just sitting in my car thinking and talking, I agreed to go back inside and unlock the basement door. As scary as what I witnessed was, I didn't want to be responsible for someone dying down there. But when we got back inside, the basement door was wide open. I promise you we locked that door, so it made no sense. We once again bolted back outside towards the car and drove home, to never return to that mansion
I mean, if
again.
you're with two of your friends, We could check it out together again. I mean, what's that? What's one creepy lady gonna do?
When I was a very
Nothing.
young kid, we lived in an upper middle class neighborhood. Lots of space between each house. All the houses on our street were very nice, but there was one abnormally large house. It was closer to a mansion. It sat right across the street from us, and my bedroom window could look across to the windows of the mansion. Since our street was incredibly low traffic, our parents let us play soccer in the street. So my two friends, Brian and Zeke, were playing soccer one sunny day. It was usually just the three of us, so we had this kind of free-for-all version of soccer that we made up. Eventually the ball was kicked onto the property of the mansion, so I ran over to get it. When I picked up the ball, I looked at all the windows to see if the house owner was possibly witnessing me on his property. But at one of the top windows was a young boy who looked to be about our age. I hurried off the property and back to my friends. I asked them if they had ever seen the kid who lives in that mansion, and they hadn't. The second time I looked back at the window, the boy was no longer there. It wasn't for a while after that, probably a month, that I was in my room playing Nintendo, and for whatever reason I got up to get something, and I looked out my window across to the mansion, and I saw that boy at the window again. He was surely
Coincidence,
looking at me,
bro.
all the way from across the street. It kind of creeped
Creepy
me out.
coincidence.
I walked away from the window to ignore it. Why hadn't I ever seen that kid outside before? Come to think of it, why hadn't I ever really seen the owners of that house? I asked my parents about the boy across the street. They said they were pretty sure there was no boy in that house. So the next time Brian, Zeke, and I
how
were
would
playing
they
the
know for
street,
sure?
we were thinking of potential fourth players to have a real game. I had an idea. I ran to the front door of that mansion and rang the bell. A 50-something-year-old woman answered. I asked if her son wanted to play soccer with us. She looked at me puzzled and said, "What son?" I replied, "The boy who was always at the upstairs window." I can't describe the look on her face besides shock and fear. She asked me what the boy
I would
looked
be
like,
too.
and after my best description, a tear rolled down her cheek, and she put her hands over her mouth. She brought me upstairs to the room where I kept seeing the boy.
Don't go upstairs with
It was a
her.
boy's bedroom. She showed me a picture of a kid and asked me if this was the boy I was seeing, and I said yes. She told me that
Man,
was
he
her
saw a
8-year-old son,
silhouette. Come on,
Charlie,
you didn't
who died
see the
10 years
boy.
ago. That woman living there had been alone ever since she lost her son and husband. She believed what I said because I nor my parents would have ever had any way of knowing about her son.
Demon child.
She didn't tell me or my parents what happened to her husband or son. As sad as this all was, it was still horrifying. There was one other time I saw the boy. I was in my room, months later, and I looked out my window to the woman's mansion across the street. There he was again, at the upstairs window. I could tell he was looking at me. I shut my blind with force and tried to forget about it. It still sends shivers up my spine when I think back
I'll
on
just
it.
keep staring back till he disappears or something.
I was once hired to house sit for a friend of the family friend who was going
Damn.
away for a week.
Looks like some Pablo
In this case, I
Escobar
should call it
mansion.
mansion sit because the family was
That is
absolutely
nice.
loaded, and the mansion sat on the rich side of town in front of a huge lake. I was 21.
Oh, the water
and it just
right
seemed
there.
like a cool job to have for a week. The family's one rule was to throw no parties and no more than 2 guests at any time, which even that I
Sure.
thought was generous of them. The father's name was Benjamin, and that's the only name you'll need to know. Ben left me a list of things to keep track of
Damn.
every night, which included feeding the 2 cats and 2 parrots, watering the plants, among other things that really won't contribute to the story. The house was a half hour from home, so instead of just driving there and back every day, I opted to just sleep in one of the guest bedrooms, which they offered to me after all. The first day there, I got there very late, so it was a short one that got me kind of warmed up for what to expect the week ahead of me. After doing the insignificant amount of morning chores, I hopped in the pool they had in the backyard. The pool literally overlooked a gorgeous, tranquil lake, and even with the thought of getting to enjoy this unbelievable house for a
Wow.
week, I was still incredibly jealous. As I was in the pool, I noticed through the giant floor-to-ceiling windows to the living room somebody walking inside. I jumped out from the pool freaking out. I ran to grab the towel
Excuse
and
me, you're
dry
not supposed to
myself
be
for a
here.
second before storming inside yelling, "Excuse me." I didn't see anyone in the living room, so I entered the kitchen, and there was a fairly large Hispanic woman who looked to be about 35 to 40. She was just
Maid?
standing there as if waiting for me. I asked her who she was and why she was here while trying to keep myself composed and confident. She said in a thick accent that she was the maid who came every day to clean the floors and stuff. She introduced herself as Eliza. I instantly felt a sense of relief and introduced myself as Mike, the guy who was house sitting for the week. She spoke in as little words as possible. I don't think her English was too good, but she basically said she was going to clean the floors in the kitchen and living room now. I said that was completely fine and let her do her thing. I asked her how she got in the house, and she said she had her own copy of the key. So that was that. I went back out to the pool for a little longer to let her do her thing. When I got out from the pool, I dried up and took a shower. After my shower, I fed the animals again. The parrots were easier than the cats, surprisingly. I didn't see the maid again, but I didn't really want to get in her way and have awkward small talk with someone who could barely speak English anyway. I had a couple friends over that night because everyone was eager to see the place, but I respected their rules of only 2 guests at a time. I gave them the best tour I could. Then we kinda just chilled in the game room they had, played some air hockey and pool table, and drank a little bit. When I told my friends about the cleaning lady scaring the hell out of me, they both found it insanely suspicious. Like, why wouldn't Ben have told me about the cleaning lady? They brought up a good point, so I shot Ben a text, asking about the cleaning lady. He didn't answer right away, and I didn't want to call. My friends wanted to sleep over, but I didn't want to push it. I had no idea if they had cameras in the house or not. So they left, and quickly after I started getting myself ready to lay down in bed. At some point I got a text back from Ben, apologizing for taking so long, and then asking what cleaning lady, with 2 question marks and an exclamation point. I typed back, Eliza, the Hispanic woman who came by and claimed she was the cleaning lady. That's when Ben called me with a concerned voice. He got more details from me after telling me there was no cleaning lady. That was the whole reason they hired me. I felt like I had been taken for a fool. But more importantly, I was terrified that I may not have been in that house alone at that very moment. Ben told me to just hide in a bedroom and that he'd call the police for me. So we hung up.
Oh my
waited
god.
for the police to arrive.
The amount of rooms in a
I had Ben
mansion
on
and
FaceTime
stuff.
when the police arrived, so
She's
we could also
hiding.
talk to them. We all looked through the house together, from top to bottom, and we didn't see anyone. I told Ben the lady said she had a spare key, but he said he was confident that that was a lie, because they never made any spare keys. He was confident she simply snuck in when I was in the pool or outside in general. After we were sure there was no one in the house, the police left, but they made sure I locked all the doors and windows before they did so. I spoke with Ben a little longer, who was very comforting, and asked I just hold down the fort and call the police if anything else should happen. We hung up, and I went to bed. I locked the door, of course. I left the air conditioner off so I could hear any potential noises from outside of the room. As I lay awake, subconsciously waiting for a noise, I heard one from under the bed. It sounded like a squeak on the wood floor. I hopped out of the bed and looked under it. There were 2 people hiding underneath. One was the lady from earlier, Eliza. The other was some man probably 10 years older than her, with his hand over her mouth. They both locked eyes with me. I screamed and I ran for the door. The moment that it took me to unlock the door and then open and shut it was more than I was comfortable with. As I did, I heard them crawling out from the bed. I ran outside to my car without my shoes and drove down the street, where I called the police, and then I called Ben again. I waited for police cars to pass, and then I followed them. We once again searched the whole house and found no one. This time I didn't stick around. You didn't
search the whole house, that's why.
Go home and stay safe. The family booked a flight back home the next day, cutting their vacation short. The intruders were never identified. All that can be speculated is they walked in through the front door while I was in the pool because I didn't lock the door, and that they somehow knew the family would be gone. No further info was known.
Okay. Bro. First of all, looking under the bed. Shoot, I would have just got like a broomstick or something. Lift up the blanket or something so you can see under better. And if there was people under there, of course I'd freak the hell out like he did at first. But might, I don't know, depending on how freaked out you get initially and stuff, but I feel like I'd probably get on top of the bed, yell at them, tell them they try to get out, I'm gonna start beating them and force them to stay under that bed till the cops come, get their asses to jail. 'Cause screw that, man. Sketchy ass squatters like that trying to get in a place, rob it. Get the hell out of here. The world doesn't need you. Anyways, that was the 3 scary true mansion horror stories from Mr. Nightmare. This guy has some damn good stories, by the way. Just check out his channel. He has I've only seen probably 5 altogether. Only reacted to a couple because I've seen him from other people's channels and stuff. I never knew about Mr. Nightmare. But this guy has a bunch of videos. Bunch of creepy stories too. So check him out. And if you enjoyed this, if you got any recommendations for videos, suggestions, anything, just leave it down in the comments. I'll get to it when I can. Until the next video, peace out, guys.